Dre all day.
Check 1 2 1 2. You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That's the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. There is a book. This is the master class. This is the show that is known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic, seeing both sides of any argument. What I consider to be the tool of the wise individuals, to be able to see both sides of any dispute, to make sure that you're getting every side of every story that is going on out there. Since we are all interconnected these days, it's very easy to see and hear every opinion is being shared, right? And some of those opinions can be quite compelling they can be quite compelling arguments, the opinions that people are putting out there, or the half opinions that people mix in with a little bit of factual information, and they present it to you as a truth. And today I want to talk to you about how you respond to this, to the fact that people are putting their opinions, their arguments out there, or half opinions, half truths out there and stating them as fact, and how you can ensure that you're seeing every side of things. You know, in one of my favorite books, The 48 Laws of Power, actually my favorite book, The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene talks about this in one of the chapters, which is "Do Not Commit to Anyone" is the title of the chapter. I believe it is somewhere in the 20s, maybe chapter 21 or chapter 22, or all 21 or 22. The thing is, these days, with all of us being so interconnected, anyone can share an opinion, anyone can share their perspective or their point of view on something, or their quote-unquote facts on a situation that may or may not actually be a fact. And the thing is, many of us, when we have already made a decision about a person, place, thing, or idea, all we usually look for is confirmation bias, things that match up with our confirmation bias. You decide that you don't like this person, then you're going to only listen to or notice information that confirms you're not liking that person. If something positive about that person comes out, but you already decided you don't like them, you're not even going to notice it, or you'll find a way to mentally dismiss it, if not verbally or maybe even physically dismiss that information because it doesn't confirm what you already believe in your mind. But the problem with that is, and we all do this, the problem with that habit of ours as human beings is that sometimes we're looking to confirm a belief that is based on misinformation. We initially received misinformation. So then our belief is based on that misinformation, and then we just look for things to confirm the misinformation. So before we know it, we have taken ourselves mentally down a rabbit hole of taking in a bunch of information that has been confirmed over and over again because we hear multiple people saying it, that's not even based on anything that's true. And then we start to believe, we reinforce the belief in the false information that we initially got simply because more and more people are saying it. Well, I heard another person say it, and I see another person say it, and I see this news outlet has amplified it, and this person who has a lot of followers, or this person who has a big audience, or this person who a lot of people trust, they said it, so that must mean it's true. The more we see other people saying the same thing, the more we believe it's true, but everybody may be repeating some information that was false in the beginning, all because it's all confirming what we already wanted to believe. And as the saying goes, we are the easiest people to deceive, meaning you yourself, you can deceive yourself better than you can deceive anyone else. I can deceive myself better than I can deceive anyone else. And once we decide we want to believe something, whether it's based in truth or not, or we think it's based in truth, but that may not be actual truth, we can deceive ourselves over and over again, take ourselves down a rabbit hole of deceit, a rabbit hole of misinformation. So today's topic is about not necessarily that you're going to find the actual fact of any situation, but it's about making sure before you decide on a belief, before you decide on a stance or decide on a certain point of view on any person, place, or thing, make sure that you have gotten all the information, that you picked up every side of any conversation, especially something that is opinion-based. You hear something that's opinion-based, guarantee that there will be an opposite and equal opinion on the other side of anything you hear anybody spewing out there in the world. And the more passionate someone is about a specific opinion, I guarantee you there are some passionate people with the opposite opinion. Your job is to make sure you are at least listening to, hearing out every side of something before you come to a conclusion as to what it is, what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true, what's good, what's bad. So what I'm trying to help you do here is to be a wise individual who can remain as objective as possible, at least when you're in the information gathering stage. And if you didn't know, every one of us should always be in an information gathering stage in life. Right? Every opinion that you have should remain flexible. All right, no opinion. You shouldn't keep all your opinions exactly the same throughout the duration of your life, because information changes. You get new experiences, you get new knowledge, and when you get new experiences and new knowledge, therefore the opinions that you have about life or about those specific experiences or the people, places, things you're engaged with, they should change, because now you know things that you didn't know before. So if you learn new information but your opinions don't change, then something's wrong there. And not with the information and not with the outside world. Something's wrong internally with you. Because as you get new stuff, new materials, new things should change. And I've talked about opinions many times on the show, but most specifically in masterclass number 734, keeping all your opinions flexible. And I've talked about opinions in many other angles over the course of the lifetime of the Work on Your Game show masterclass. So I would suggest, as a game group member, we have the master list of every masterclass that has ever come out here on the show. It is listed in the game group memberships. You can go look at that. All you got to do is use the find function or the search function in your browser. You can just type in the word opinion, and it'll show you every episode where I even use the word opinion in the title. But I've talked about it in other ways where I didn't use opinion in the title. So you should just listen to everything that I've ever put out to make sure you don't miss anything. So let's get into the topic here today. Point number one, the topic once again, seeing both sides of any argument in life. Number one, the only exercise that most people engage in often, consistently, is jumping to conclusions. Now that's a saying, but it's the thing that a lot of people do. Only exercise they do. They don't do any burpees, no push-ups, they don't run any miles, no lifting weights, no bench presses, no squats or deadlifts. All they do is jump to a conclusion. They get a little piece of information or a small experience, or they hear an opinion shared by someone whom they trust, or an opinion about something or someone that person already has decided what they want to believe, and they'll go along with it simply because it confirms what they already believe. So they jump to a conclusion. That's the only jumping most people do. You, being not like most people, you're going to be disciplined and measured enough to not jump to buy somebody else's opinion, especially when you have not heard any other sides of a situation. Again, when you're listening to a person's opinion, when someone's telling you, listen, someone's stating a fact, it's black and white, it can be proven, there's no argument to a fact. Our opinions have arguments. If someone has to make an argument and a justification for their point of view, that means there's some opinion in there. There may be some fact in there, and this is how a lot of people get fooled these days. If someone was to mix in 2% facts with 98% opinion, that doesn't make it a fact. All right, it just means it's 2% fact. Your skill of discernment, I'm doing a whole masterclass on discernment coming up soon. Your skill of discernment is to be able to look through what is being shared by another person, another entity. I don't care if it's a newspaper, a TV show, some influencer on the internet, and point out or be able to pick out which parts are actual facts and which parts are opinions. Because people are really good at communication. They mastered this art of mixing opinions and facts together to make you believe that everything they're saying is a fact, when that's absolutely not what's happening. The news media is especially leading this cause. So what I'm saying here in point number one is that when you have not heard multiple sides of an opinion, do not be so quick to jump to a conclusion based on somebody's opinion, somebody's belief. No matter how compelling they are, no matter how well worded their argument is. And again, people you see in the media, they're usually very good at wording their arguments. That's why they're in the media, because they're good at persuading people with their words. They're good at swaying opinion with their words. But you must be smart enough, objective enough to understand, yes, this person, they worded what they said really well, and that sounds good, and they're very eloquent, but I'm not sure that everything they're saying is what I should believe, because there's a whole lot of opinion they're throwing in there. Let me make sure I'm getting every side of this thing before I come to a conclusion. I knew a woman once, to give you a basic example. She went to a TGI Fridays restaurant, right? And she went to the bathroom. She took her phone with her to the bathroom. She put her phone down on the counter in the bathroom in TGI Fridays. She left the bathroom and forgot her phone on the counter. She came back to her table, sat down for about 10 minutes, and then realized, oh shit, I left my phone in the bathroom. She went back to the bathroom to get her phone, and you tell me what happened. You can fill in the blank here. The phone was gone. Somebody had noticed the phone, took the phone. She called the phone's number. Nobody answered the phone. She never was able to recover that phone. But after that phone was gone, whatever way you want to describe that, I heard this same woman telling people about what had occurred, and her version of the story was somebody stole my phone. My phone got stolen from TGI Fridays. People were such assholes. Why would somebody steal my phone from TGI Fridays? And I remember telling her, because I knew what had actually happened, that she didn't get her phone stolen. Stolen is like if the phone's in your pocket and somebody pickpockets you and takes the phone out of your pocket, or the phone is clearly in your personal possession, meaning someone can see that it's your phone, but then they take it on the sly and you didn't notice, but they knew exactly what they were doing, taking that phone from the person to whom it belonged. That's stolen. All right, your dumbass didn't get your phone stolen. Your dumbass left your phone in the bathroom. So the person who picked up your phone had no idea who the phone belonged to. Now, into that person's in their defense, the defense of the person who lost the phone. Now, could the person who picked up the phone could have just said, "Yo, let me wait till somebody calls and give them their phone back"? Could I just have went to the management and said, "Hey, if anybody says they lost the phone, let them know here the phone is and give it back"? Could that person have done that? Yes. Did the person have to take the phone and turn it off and not answer the call when you try to recover your own phone? No, they didn't have to do all that. But you got to take responsibility for your part in it, the person who lost the phone. Like, your dumbass left the phone in the bathroom, right? Nobody stole it from you because nobody knew it was yours because you left it in the bathroom. It was an unclaimed item at the moment that it got taken. The point that I'm trying to make here is that just because the person, this woman who got her phone, who lost her phone, whatever, again, you word it however you want to word it, the woman who lost her phone, her version of the story was that it got stolen, but that wasn't the whole story. All right, and now if you only heard her version of it and you didn't hear any other side of it, you didn't ask any questions, you might accept her version of the story, but that was not what actually happened. She was the one who made the mistake. Now, had she not made the mistake, all of the other things that happened after that could not have possibly happened. Somebody who didn't know the whole story, again, they only saw one side. You weren't there. So if you weren't there, let's say you heard this story. You didn't know what happened. All you heard was this person say, "Somebody stole my phone from TGI Fridays." What would you do if you wanted to get every side of the situation? You weren't there. You don't have access to the video surveillance footage, but you want to find out if that's what actually happened, that this person got their phone stolen. What would you do to get the information? Very simple tactic that you would need to use. We call it asking questions. All you got to do is ask questions. You want to get every side of a situation. Do not blindly and foolishly accept anyone's version of a story. Because someone's telling you a story, I guarantee you there's another version of that story out there somewhere. Your job, even if you can't get to whomever else has another version of the story, I guarantee you here's something that can happen. You can get other versions of the same story just by asking questions to the same person. If any of you has ever worked in interrogation, do we have any police or detectives here who's ever done any type of interrogation? Any of you read up on interrogation, or I don't know, maybe you watched some detective TV shows, or you read the book. I forgot the name of the book. Oh yeah, it's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who's a guy who worked as a negotiator. I believe his job was with the FBI, but he wrote a really good book called Never Split the Difference. You should go look that book up and read it, listen to it, whatever way you consume it, multiple times so that you can start to use the material. Any of you who's ever worked in those phases, you know that a police officer, if they're doing an interrogation, or FBI agent, or anybody's doing any type of interrogation, they want to make sure they're getting the real version of a story. They'll ask the person whom they're talking to about what happened. They'll let them tell their version of what happened, and then they'll keep asking them in different ways questions to tell the story over again. They'll piece it together in different ways by just asking more questions. They won't say, "All right, tell me the story again." "All right, tell me the story a third time. Tell me the same story a fourth time." No, that's not going to work because people are a little bit too smart for that. All they'll do is take little bits and pieces of the story that was told the first time, and they'll just reconfirm. "Oh, so you're saying that you parked your car at 11 o'clock in front of your house? Is that what you said?" And then you just keep putting the story together and just asking questions over and over again. And what you'll notice is that you're going to get more than one version of the exact same story from the same person if you're artful in asking questions. The questions that you want to ask are going to start with the open-ended words. Who, what, when, where, why, how, and if is another one. Who, what, when, where, why, how, and if. How did you know? How did this happen? How did you come to this belief or opinion? You ask these questions, and some people probably will get annoyed with you that you won't just accept their shit. Whatever their story is, you won't just accept it. You keep asking questions. Some people may get a little bit annoyed. Why you keep asking questions? Why you keep asking me all these questions? Why don't you just take what I'm saying? You know, people get annoyed because The only time somebody would get annoyed when they're telling you their version of a story is when their version of the story is probably not exactly what happened. So they know that the more you ask questions, the more they're going to have to tell. And eventually it's going to come out that they've kind of painted that story with their emotions, because human beings were emotional, to make it look a certain way. And again, we all do this at different times. But if somebody gets annoyed with you asking them questions, so what? You'll learn more about what's really happening through those questions. And what really happened versus somebody's version of a story, they're often not the same thing. Point number 2. Today's topic is learning to see both sides of any argument, or discover both sides of any argument in life. The wise man, this is point number 2. The wise man is the one who can hold 2 opposing, contradictory ideas/beliefs in his mind at the same time. The fool is the person who must pick a side. Let me say that again. The wise man is the person who can hold multiple opposing, contradictory ideas or beliefs in his mind at the same damn time. The fool is the individual who must pick a side. They hear different versions of a story. They hear 2 people arguing. They got to pick a side and say, no, this person's right, this person's wrong. That's usually not the way that it works. Usually when you have people telling stories, there's person A, there's some parts that they're right in and some parts they're wrong in, and person B, the exact same thing. Usually is not one person who's 100% right on everything that they said in these stories, especially when there's an argument and there's opinion based. So you can't be right when you have an opinion. Opinions are just opinions. It can't be right or wrong. The fool is the person who chooses a side even though neither side is perfect. The wise individual is the person who can understand that person A has some right parts and some wrong parts, or some good virtues and some not so good virtues, and they can also see that person B has the exact same thing. There are some parts about this that are good, some parts about this that are not so good, but overall they can still make a decision. They can still say, well, look, I'll go with person A's version simply because of this, this, and this, and this. Even though they understand that person A is not 100% straight up and down the board perfect. And the same thing with person B. They're not up and down the board incorrect. It's okay to admit, let me back up. The fact of the matter is, in life in general, both let's say for example, the Democrats and the Republicans. All right, the Democrats got some good points and the Republicans have some good points. All right, a wise person can admit that. Now, the foolish person is the person who's a hardcore, lifelong Democrat who can never say anything positive about the Republicans simply because they're so bought into the Democrat story that they couldn't bring themselves to say or acknowledge anything positive about the Republican. All right, this is a foolish way of thinking. The fool is the person who is so bought in on the religion of Christianity they couldn't say anything positive about Buddhism or being a Muslim or Islam or what's the other one? Judaism, because they're so bought into Christianity. All right, that's a foolish way of thinking. The wise individual can say, listen, I've chosen this. You can choose where you want to go. You can choose your group. You can choose what side you're going to ride with if you want to do that. You can choose what side you're going to ride with, but at the same time, you can say, look, I'm choosing to ride with this side, but I can tell you some positive things about this, and this. There's some positive qualities to going that way. If you want to go that way, or if you thought this way, you're not wrong. We're not the same. I thought I choose this and you chose that, but it doesn't mean I'm 100% right and you're 100% wrong. There are some pro qualities to what you do, and there's some cons to what I do. I could sit here and tell you all the positives that come from publishing every single day, written material, audio material, video material, because that's something that I've done. But I could also tell you some cons to it. I could tell you some pros to publishing once a week. I can tell you some pros to not publishing at all, just creating some advertisements and just putting money behind it. And that's the way you build your audience. There are pros and cons to everything. And just because you have decided on something, you must control the confirmation bias that comes with that causes you to think that everything about what you're doing must be the right thing to do, and therefore you should push everybody else to do the exact same thing that you did. Not necessarily true. Again, doesn't mean you can't help people do your thing better and make an argument for why your thing might be more advantageous than that thing based on certain factors and situations. But you should also be wise enough to say, look, I'm a Democrat, but let me tell you 10 positive things about the Republicans, or vice versa. All right, your favorite athlete or your favorite musician or your favorite influencer or business leader, listen, I'm sure they have some amazing positive qualities that made them your favorite in the first place, right? But they also probably have some things about them that aren't so great, and that's completely okay. You know why? Because it's true of everyone. All right, none of us is 100% perfect, but none of us is 100% terrible. The fool is the person who either will not or cannot acknowledge these things because they are too much of a fan of a certain thing they've chosen to agree with, or too much of a hater of something they chose to go against, to even recognize that, you know what, the thing that I hate, here's some positive things about it, and the thing that I love, here's some negative things about it. No person, no idea, no process is 100% good nor bad. But if you look around, see how many people are not able to even accept that. I mean, how many people do you know who could say, I bought into this side of things, but I can tell you 10 positive things about that side, even though I don't go with that side. Or no, I have chosen this opinion, but if I was to have this opinion, here's some positive things that could come from having this opinion. There are not too many people who are objective enough to look at life or look at anything, even one thing in their life, in that way. A lot of people's mindset is the person that I love, or the thing that I love, or the thing that I hate either has to be all terrible or all positive. You know, you look on social media these days and you see a lot of this, especially in an area like politics. This is the area where it's happening the most, and that's why one of the main reasons why this conversation is necessary, even if you're not that much into politics. I'm not that much into politics, but I see this happening a lot, and I see that either politics is causing this to spill into all of life, or all of life is causing this to spill into politics. One way or another, I think it's the second one. I think the world has just become this way, that people are more polarized, people are having these strong opinions, and because we have these platforms where we can express our opinions over and over again to our heart's content, and build an audience of people who agree with us, who will co-sign our opinions and make us believe that our opinion must be right, because we have more and more people confirming our opinions by agreeing with our beliefs, that we start to believe that everything that we're thinking must be right, because look, I got 1,000 people, 10,000, 1,000,000 people who agree with me. We call this living in a bubble, where you only see your opinion, you only see things that confirm your opinion. Therefore, you start to believe that your opinion must be 100% right, and there can never be anything wrong with it. That is completely incorrect. Point number 3. Today's topic is seeing both sides of any argument, or getting all sides of every story. Point number 3, the biggest challenge to doing all of this is, as you follow the things that I'm saying here today, you're going to notice that everyone around you is not doing it. Most of the people around you will not be objective enough. Most of the people around you will not be emotionally mature enough to do this, especially, again, when it comes to something or someone that they have a strong emotion for or a strong emotion against. This is easy to do when you're talking about something that you're neutral on. Like, you don't really care. Like, I don't care that much about, if I don't care that much about politics, I can tell you some positive things about both sides. But if I'm really in on politics, and I've been studying it for years and writing about it, and I've been going hard against this party and hard for that other party, it's going to be really hard for me to be objective about that. So this is the area that you really need to use this the most. Everyone who's listening to me right now, is the areas where you already have some emotional buy-in. You have already decided emotionally that you are strongly one way or another about a certain person, place, or thing. This is where you're going to need this the most. You're going to need to discipline yourself to step back from your emotion and ask yourself, okay, am I getting every side of this? Have I looked at every side of this? Can I objectively acknowledge every side of this? Because the idea that I've chosen is not 100% perfect, and the ideas that I have rejected are not 100% incorrect. They're not 100% terrible. You're going to notice that everyone around you is picking sides and drawing lines, and you may be one of them. And those people are going to come at you if you're not willing to pick a side. If you're not willing to the word that I was just thinking of just slipped my mind. But if you're not willing to pick a side and just say, you know what, this is where I'm at, and forget the other side, I'm all in on this one, there are going to be people who attack you just because you won't join in on what they're doing. You know, I see online these days people say things like, well, look, if you won't come in on our side and attack this other thing, the them versus us thing, if you don't attack this other side the way that we're attacking this other side, then that means you're co-signing the other side. That means you're co-signing the bad thing because you won't say something negative about the bad thing the way that I do. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous way of thinking, but this is the kind of stuff that I'm seeing grown men and women do these days, and this is the opposite of what I'm talking about here today. So if you see anyone doing that, that's the opposite of this. All right, so if you want a better way, a simpler way of understanding it, you see someone saying, all right, well, look, if you're not on our side, you're completely against us because you don't agree with our opinion, or you're trying to be objective, or you're trying to be in the middle, so to speak. Listen, in life, many times it makes sense to be in the middle simply because, again, neither side is 100% perfect, neither side is 100% wrong. It's hard to think neutrally and objectively in this polarizing world. That's the word I was thinking of, polarizing one side or another. Demonizing one side and saying the other side just must be perfect is not true. Is very polarizing, the things that we are being subjected to these days, and it's also the fact that subjective opinions matter more than facts a lot of times these days. I talked about that in Masterclass 1407 just a couple of weeks ago. If you don't remember that one, I suggest you go back and listen to it. It's really hard to be neutral, hard to stay objective and neutral when everyone's trying to polarize you. Everyone's trying to make you join the side or reject the side. And this is going to be a test of your mental toughness and your mental discipline that you will face as more and more things just happen in life or in your industry or in your field, your environment, whatever you happen to be involved in. And again, Masterclass 1407, subjective opinions matter more than facts now. So what I'm pairing that message with this message here today, you got to understand that people are going to be more and more persuaded by subjective opinions than they ever were by factual information, simply because subjective opinions are more sensational, or they're more fun, they're more entertaining. They draw more energy than just a factual piece of information. The fact is just there, it's black and white, it just lays there as is. A subjective opinion, you can make an emotional argument against. You don't have to make an emotional argument for a fact. All right, there's no emotional argument for facts. But there are emotional arguments for subjective opinions. Those draw people's attention. That gets people riled up. It gets people riled up for it or riled up against it. And this is how we get the polarization that happens in life. Your job is not to completely turn off your emotions or not make a decision or not choose a side in certain areas where it makes sense for you to choose a side. It's to be as objective as possible, even when you have chosen a side. Even when you have made a decision, you can say, look, I'm going with this side over here, but I can still tell you some positive things about this side over there. A lot of people are not capable of doing that. So being able to do this is an opportunity for you, because the opportunity, as I told you before, is always in the opposites. Let's recap today's topic, which is seeing both sides of any argument. This is the tool of the wise, to be able to see every side of any conversation, argument, story, etc., because there are always more than one side in anything that is not a black and white fact. Since we are all connected these days, it's easy to see and hear every opinion. Many of them will be quite compelling because there are people who are really good at this stuff. And what we're talking about here today is how you respond to this and make sure you're seeing every side of things before and after you make decisions. Point number one. The only exercise most people engage in life is jumping to conclusions. That's a saying, but you need to be disciplined and measured enough to not jump to buy somebody else's opinion, especially when you have not heard other sides of that same situation. I knew a woman who left her phone in the Friday's bathroom. The phone got taken because she left it in there. She told everybody somebody stole my phone. My version of the story is, no, your dumbass left the phone in the bathroom, then somebody took it because they didn't know who it belonged to anyway. So if you weren't there though, how would you ask? How would you find out what happened? You would ask questions. How'd you know? How did this happen? How'd you come to this belief or opinion? Why do you see it this way? Ask questions that start with who, what, when, where, why, how, and if. Open-ended questions that get people talking. Now, people may get annoyed when you keep asking them questions about the things that they're saying or the stories that they're telling. So what? They get annoyed. They're probably telling you some bullshit in their story, usually. If they keep telling the story and you keep asking from different angles and the story stays pretty much the same, usually that's because they're telling the truth. But if they have painted it with their emotions, which is what 99.9% of humans do, especially something that they're emotionally charged about, you gotta be discerning enough to decipher the real story from the emotional story. Point number two. The wise man is an individual who can hold two opposing, contradictory ideas / beliefs in his mind at the same time. The fool is a person who rushes to pick a side. The fact of the matter is, both the Democrats and the Republicans have some good points, and they both have some shitty points, and it's okay to admit that, even if you are a staunch Democrat or a hardcore, die-hard Republican. Your favorite athlete, musician, business leader, influencer, they have some great positive qualities. They probably have some things with them that also are not so great, and it's okay for you to admit that. It's true of every human being on this planet. The fool is a person who cannot or will not acknowledge this because they are too bought into one side of an argument. No person is 100% good or bad, so anytime you hear somebody speaking on another person as if they're 100% good or 100% bad, you're talking to a person who is too wrapped up in their emotions to be objective on that particular subject. Point number three, the biggest challenge to all of this that I'm talking about here is, as you follow this, if you begin to follow this and take my advice here, everyone around you is picking sides. They're going to be drawing lines and maybe even coming at you because you will not pick a side and draw a line for yourself. And it's hard to think neutrally and objectively in a polarizing and heavily subjective world, as I talked about in Masterclass 1407. So it's going to be a test of your mental discipline that you will face as more and more things happen and more subjective opinions get thrown out there into the world and more people choose sides. Remember that the opportunity in life is always in the opposites. I talked about this in Masterclass 1025. You don't remember it, go back and listen to it 3 more times. Work on your game. Dre all day.